Namaste and greetings, and welcome to the Center for Spiritually Integrated Arts, a Centers for Spiritual Living teaching center. I'm Reverend Dr. Raymond Anderson, the founding minister and spiritual director. If you ever have questions about who I am, who we are, what we do, what is Spiritually Integrated Arts? What is a teaching center? What is Centers for Spiritual Living? What is metaphysical spirituality? What is New Thought? Science of Mind and Spirit? How do I become a member? How can I support, tithe, and donate? All of these questions and so many more. Send an email. You have two options. SIAADMIN, Spiritually Integrated Arts, admin at spirituallyintegratederarts.org, or spirituallyintegratederarts@gmail.com. Either of those will work. You can also visit our website, www.spirituallyintegratederarts.org. Now, you may be wondering, where else can I find and follow? There are several other social media platforms that you can also subscribe and follow. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and our YouTube channel, where you can also find all of our Sunday messages and more. I look forward to hearing from you soon. I look forward to you being a part of this beloved community. Because we are a virtual community, it doesn't matter where in the world you are. This can also be your spiritual community, because you can have more than one. Anywhere that you feel supported, anywhere you are spiritually fed is home, is community, is relationship. So I look forward to dialoguing more, conversing more, getting to know you. Much love and appreciation. Live long and prosper. Chat with you soon. Take care. Hello and welcome to our final Sunday message of July. As you see on your screen, our dates for the After Sunday Message Fellowship have yet to be determined. So make sure you tune in the first week of August to see what dates, because there's a lot of stuff going on. So tune in. Dates will be announced in due time. In the meantime, if you do not already have the link for the Zoom Fellowship Hall, make sure you send an email to either of the two email addresses that you see on your screen. As I consistently say, make sure that you are also keeping those emails saved somewhere, because they will be your main method of reaching out to get information, to register for classes, etc., etc. So stay tuned and stay in touch. Stay in touch. How else can you stay in touch? Make sure that you have access to the website address. Make sure that you like, share, subscribe, follow, share all of the social media platforms that you are on. Share, even if you're not on Facebook or Twitter, share the links with others who may be. So we are on Facebook, we are on Instagram, we are on Twitter, and our YouTube channel. Like I said, like, follow, subscribe, and share widely. Note at the bottom of your screen, you see the two QR codes. The QR code to your left is for Givelify, and the QR code to your right is PayPal. These are two easy methods for you to be able to offer your financial support, your tithes, your offerings, your donations, to support this beloved community and the work that we are intending to do in the world. If neither of these work for you and you want some other method of payment, maybe you want to send in a check or a money order, send an email, state that, and I, the secretary or the treasurer, will get back to you and let you know exactly what to do and where to send it. Now, Classes or informal classes, these are not accredited, ways that you can continue to study and grow and evolve in your consciousness. Wednesday night, the Science of Mind and Spirit discussion group, facilitated by me, where we explore what is science of mind and spirit? How do we practice it? How do we live it in this 21st century era so that we are practicing new thought and not continuing to practice old new thought? The Thursday night study group, facilitated by Tracy, goes over the questions that I always end our Sunday message with. It is a very lively discussion with these folks. Trust and believe, because I showed up recently, and it was fun. So these are two ways that you can join in. Each of these have their own Zoom link. If you do not have the Zoom link, remember those email addresses, send an email requesting one or both if you want, so that the link can be sent to you. Now, finishing off the month of July, still speaking truth to circumstances, we end with the standing stones. Circumstances and conditions not only seem very real, they are real, quote unquote. Dr. Holmes reminds us to think independently of any existing circumstances. This is what is meant by entering the absolute. By entering this realm of thinking, it's not just thinking, by entering this realm of consciousness, we connect with the infinite power, God, from which all circumstances, conditions come from, spring forth from. But it in and of itself is greater than any of these circumstances or conditions. Now, we're going to dive into more about this and what it means, but simply beginning with the idea, the recognition that we have access. We have the tools to navigate life with whatever the conditions are, while still being in the consciousness of the absolute, still being in the divine consciousness of our spiritual magnificence, while navigating our so-called human experiences. Because as I always say, we are not simply human beings, divine beings having a human experience, but that we are divine beings having a divine experience that we call human. Being human is not separate from our divinity. They are one and the same. You cannot separate your humanity from your divinity. They are one and the same. So no matter the conditions or the circumstances, we are still divine beings. Now, how do we bring that awareness of our divinity? How do we bring that awareness of the absolute to the circumstances and to the conditions that we are experiencing in our lives? Dr. Holmes says, form is entirely in the realm of effect. Form comes and goes, but form is not self-knowing. Form exists within the formless. Form is not an illusion, even when it is in the form of a disease. It then represents a quote unquote false conclusion, but it is as real as it is supposed to be. Pause, breathe. Because oftentimes people want to negate or deny the reality in which we live and call it an illusion. It's not real. And yet it is. It's as real as it is supposed to be. It is as real as it needs to be. It is as real as God is real, because God is showing up as. The formless becomes the form. If the formless is real, because it's God, and God is showing up in, through, and as the form, then how is God becoming any less real? So even when Dr. Holmes mentions disease, the experience of it is real. The disease is real. It can be seen under a microscope, through an MRI. It is real. However, in the realm of the formless, it doesn't exist. In the realm of the absolute and divine, there is no illness, sickness, or disease. And yet, in this individualized expression, there is age, there is disease, there is sadness, there is loneliness, there is depression. But in the formless, because there is no form, these things do not exist. And in the realm of form, as he says, form comes and goes. There is a time, a season for everything. Spring yields to become summer. Summer yields to become fall. Fall becomes winter, and the cycle repeats. So, our invitation is to recognize that we do not need to, we are not invited to deny or practice some form of metaphysical malpractice when it comes to form, when it comes to circumstances, when it comes to conditions, that we can be present even in the face of illness and disease and still be anchored in principle and truth without denying someone's experience, without denying their disease. Now, granted, when we talk about spiritual mind treatment, yes, they're called denials where someone may say something to the effect of, and so what I am knowing right here and right now, that even in this experience of this disease, I know that the absolute, which is God, is incarnating in, through, and as me, and it cannot be or have a disease. And so I call forth, I evoke this divine state of health and well-being that every cell of my body radiates with the divine love of spirit, etc., etc. So see, even in the treatment, we recognize the experience, we call it what it is, and then we state the truth regarding it. Breathe. So no matter the experience, the circumstance, the condition, the effect, no matter what it is, it is. It simply is. Now, regarding our theme today of stones, for some, the experience is like having a stone weighed around our neck, pulling us down, anchoring us down. A stone tied to our foot to keep us from moving. A stone, but a stone is simply a stone. It is simply a collection of molecules in a concretized, solid form. That means they are real close, butting up against each other, really slowly, but they're there. And then liquid, a little bit further apart, moving faster. Gas, further apart, moving really fast. The stone is simply a stone. The circumstance is what it is. So when we think of the stone of the experience, the stone of the circumstance, the stone of the condition, some stones block roads and some stones form walls. Some stones are used to create sculptures and some stones demonstrate balance. Some stones are symbolically used within such things as Zen to represent unity, tranquility, and enlightenment. And some stones are used as stepping stones to move from point A to point B. What are the stones in your life doing? Are they blocking the road? Are they building a wall to keep things partitioned or keep others away? Are they being used to move you from point A to point B to demonstrate balance? What are the stones, the experiences of your life demonstrating? Dr. Holmes says, we outwardly experience our states of consciousness, but Since the apparent without, the external, is merely a reflection of what is within, what is its cause, what we most need to do is to start with the simple proposition of the creative power of thought, not just thought, but our mental equivalent. And from this inner recognition, know that circumstances are formed and held in place to the degree that we hold them in place. So, everything that is an external experience has a state of consciousness connected to it. And we call it our internal, but our consciousness, which technically there is no our consciousness that's separated from consciousness, but for the sake of linguistic convenience, our consciousness, our internal consciousness, has the ability to affect, to change the conditions. Now, we say thought, but it's not just thought. Once again, it's our entire mental equivalent. So, the creative power of our thought, our words, our emotions, and our actions. And it is from this recognition, from this conviction, from this state of knowing that we then move into the conditions, the circumstances, and the experiences, and we change them accordingly. Because it's held in place for as long as until something changes it. For example, slavery was held in place until the consciousness evolved to a point where it was no more, at least not in that form. Well, what changed? The inward consciousness of the inward state of awareness, the mental equivalent of various people who demanded change, who demanded freedom, equity, liberty, justice. So, whatever the outward experience, now we are not saying that simply change your thinking, change your life. It doesn't work that way. However, let's suppose that I live in a food desert. The invitation is, I don't want that to be the thing, that to be the form that's held in place. What is my invitation? Shift my consciousness around it. Now, shifting my consciousness around it, because this is a systemic thing held by the collective consciousness, just changing mine is not going to automatically change it any more than Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s changed all of it. Doesn't work that way. Malcolm X doesn't work that way. However, it sets in motion a series of dominoes within consciousness, because once I've shifted, even within the food desert, it changes how I show up. It changes how I engage city council or the state or city representatives, Congress. It changes how I engage all of these people. It changes how I engage the restaurants or the grocery stores in my neighborhood. When I change inwardly, it changes how I show up outwardly. And in how I change outwardly, it then begins to have ripple effects, influence, and impact in the external world. This is why we are invited to practice. How do we shift our internal beliefs and paradigms and awareness? How do we put into practice this thing to change form, to change circumstances, to change the effect that we are seeing in the world? Dr. Holmes goes on to say, the law of mind, or the law of mind in action, as quickly creates one form as another. Now let's pause. Suppose I'm in the kitchen and I'm making cornbread, but I change my mind. Does the oven say, whoa, you said you were doing cornbread, I'm not doing lemon bread, and it shuts its door? No. Does the mixing bowl say, wait a minute, you put cornbread in here. We're going to finish this. The heck on with some lemon bread. No. The mixing bowl simply holds the ingredients. The law of mind and action is not invested in one form versus another. It simply receives our mental equivalent and it acts accordingly. So the law of mind as quickly creates one form as another for us. And we must allow the patterns of our mental equivalent to become molded from the highest sense of reality, God, that we possibly can possess at any given moment. When we are holding the high watch, then we are allowing the container of our lives to be molded by our mental equivalent, which the law says yes to. And the law acts accordingly, which means all of creation is moving in such a way that it mirrors, it reflects what we are being, not just thinking, but what we are being in the world. So, what are you being? What are we being? What be you? To be or not to be isn't the question. What do you be is the question. Now, one of the ways that we, engage in this thing is meditation. But what does that mean? Why is meditation a spiritual practice? Why is it a practice at all? Because as Dr. Holmes says, to daily meditate on the perfect life and to daily embody the great ideal is a royal road to freedom. Oh, that sounds so poetic and beautiful. But what is a perfect life? What is the great ideal? And what is freedom for you? We say a world that works for all. What does that mean? What does that look like? What does it feel like? Because until we can adequately describe perfect life, great ideal, which is God, freedom, which is God, and expression, which is the divine, which is the universe, which is the all that is, until we can adequately, effectively communicate that, we're just spinning words. We're doing word juggles. And word juggling is not going to create any more than if I hired an architect and the architect says, so Ray, what do you want to build? I want to build the perfect home. I have this great ideal and my home will give me a sense of freedom. Okay, but 3 bedrooms, 5 bedrooms, 2 baths, like what? The perfect. Yeah, but can you, a little bit more detail? A little bit more, concrete stuff, like something? 2 floors, 1 floor, a rancher, Japanese in design, like what? The perfect, great ideal, freedom. I don't think I'm the right person for this job. We are invited to develop a new level of clarity. So for you, what is the perfect life? And for you, what is the great ideal? And for you, what is freedom? Because as we do the work individually, and then we engage in conversation with others, and we invite others into this space of awareness and knowing, the collective consciousness shifts, and it now falls into alignment with the perfect life, the beloved community, a world that works for all, the great ideal, equity, justice, and freedom for all. But if we don't practice, if we don't fine tune and hone what it is we are visioning, what it is that we are creating, then we are holding in consciousness, holding in form, old new thought, not new thought. Joseph Campbell says, we must be willing to get rid of the life that we've planned in order to have the life that is waiting for us, in order to have the life that could be for us. Got to let go of the past, let go of that life. So there's a great example of this a metaphysical movie night kind of thing. I don't know if you recognize this window, but it comes from the mythos, the archetype of Doctor Strange. What was a world renowned surgeon? What is a surgeon who, by way of car accident, loses the fine motor skills of his hands and can be a surgeon no more? So, what next? So, wait a minute, wait, pause. So, what was, what is, and what next? From surgeon to sorcerer supreme. And then that line in the middle, the path from one to the other, the path from the stepping stones from the life that was to the life that is waiting, to the life that is, to that great ideal, to that perfect life. But we have to be willing to do what is ours to do, to move through what was, be that trauma, nostalgia, baggage, to be in, well, what is, where is my, what is my, how is my right here and right now? And then, what next? The perfect life. What next? The great ideal. What next? Equity, justice, freedom for all. What next? And the what next doesn't stop, because the what next yields to the what next, open at the top, yields to the what next, open at the top, which yields to the what next, ever greater expansive consciousness. What next? Breathe. Howard Thurman says, a person must be deeply convinced that the contradictions of life which they encounter are not final, that the radical tension between good and evil, as they see it and as they feel it, does not have the last word about the meaning of life and the nature of existence, that there is a spirit in humanity and in the world working against the thing that destroys and cuts down. Thus, this person will live wisely and courageously their little life, and those who see the sunlight on their face will drop their tools and will follow them. There is this consciousness that we see things going on in the world. There's political corruption, there's racism, there's homomisia, there's transmisia, there's xenomisia, there's all of these things, toxic patriarchy, masochism, tyranny, there's all of these things. And we allow those things to overwhelm us to such a degree that we believe that they are the last word, that they have the last word. And yet, Reverend Dr. Howard Thurman is reminding us these things do not have the last or final word. There is this thing, the nature of our existence, God, this spirit within that is all that we are because it's incarnating itself as us, and that it is, through our mental equivalent, changing the consciousness of the world paradigm, changing the consciousness of the political paradigms, changing the collective consciousness. How we embody this, how we show up as this, as within, so without. And he reminds us we don't do this alone, because when others see the light shining from your face, they will drop their baggage, they will drop their tools, they will drop their filters, and they will follow you. Not follow you as in you are the leader and they follow you, but they will walk with you. We do not heal in isolation, we heal in community. They will be with you. They will come with you. If you build it, they will come. So rather than believe that these things that we encounter, this tension in the world, this oppression in the world, rather than believe that that is a power and presence in and of itself, that it pause and breathe, renew your mind, renew your life, refresh your spirit, and then stand anew, knowing that that doesn't have the final word. Principle does. We are not bound by precedent. We are bound by principle. So align with principle, walk as principle, speak principle, think it, feel it, do it. And the external has no choice. The conditions, the circumstances, the effects have no choice but to change. Now, referencing this, let's pause for a moment and go back to basics, because we've done a lot of talking about this idea of practicing and the law of mind. And yes, so let's pause for a second and let's talk about the study of religious science is a study of first cause, a study of spirit, of mind, truth, that invisible essence, that ultimate stuff and intelligence from which all things, everything comes, the power back of creation, the thing itself. Pause. The study of religious science is a study of first cause, God, spirit, God, mind, God, or truth, God, that invisible essence, God, that ultimate stuff, God, and intelligence from which everything comes, God, the power, God, back of creation, the thing itself, God. Therefore, the study of religious science is the study of God, as simple as that, and how that which it is showing up in, through, and as everything. Now, in practice and in teaching, religious science endeavors to include the whole of life. It aims to do this holistically. It is not a dreamy, mystical cult. No. But it is the exponent of a vigorous gospel, which I say the exponent of a vigorous liberation theology, applicable to the everyday needs of our regular and everyday lives. So whatever that need is, financial need, religious science. Relationship needs, religious science. Physical needs, religious science. Doesn't matter what it is. This philosophy and teaching is applicable to whatever this is. It applies holistically. That is the intent. So the practice and the teaching is, how do we apply what we know and understand of the divine in our regular everyday lives, not just on Sunday or when we show up for classes. Religious science is an educational as well as a religious movement. Pause, because I know a lot of us don't like that word religious. We're going to talk about that in a second. But for now, it's an educational as well as a religious movement, and endeavors to coordinate the findings of science, religion, and philosophy, to find a common ground upon which true philosophic conclusions, spiritual intuitions, and mystic revelations come to agree with the cold facts of science. In other words, there are no contradictions in any of these areas. What is that place of infinite oneness where they all agree? That space. Thus producing fundamental conclusions, the denial of which is not conceivable to a rational mind. See, once you get to that heart of, the rational mind cannot argue it. The rational mind is going to understand it and going to accept it. The irrational mind will argue about anything. The world is flat. The cult of, they're going to argue it. So our invitation is, how are we open at the top to bring science, religion, philosophy, theology, and all of these things together to find the common space of awareness, truth, and understanding about God being all there is, to apply it to our everyday lives. The whole object of the science of mind is to understand the relationship between the individual and the universal, and to learn how to make conscious use of the universal power for personal purposes for oneself and for others. Now, if you're ready, I'm going to do a remix of this. You say you are? Okay, so remix. The practice of science of mind and spirit is to understand your relationship as an individualization of God. And it is learning how to consciously and purposefully use the divine universal power of all that is for both personal and collective healing, empowerment, and the ability to live out loud, to truly live your life fully. That is the practice of science of mind and spirit. Breathe. Now, we've said that word several different times, practice. Whether it's Neo practicing with Morpheus, Daniel practicing karate and not even knowing that that's what he was doing at first, Luke practicing being a Jedi with Yoda, or Stephen practicing what it means to be a master of the mystic arts. The question comes down to, how do you practice it? How do you practice? Well, what is it? Your divinity. How do you practice your divinity? How do you practice science of mind and spirit? How do you practice being you? See, we are always practicing something. The pianist practices the piano to become better. The cellist practices the cello to become better. The chef practices the culinary arts to become better. These are specific things that we can identify, and yet we are always practicing something. The racist practices racism. The white supremacist practices white supremacy. The misogynist practices misogyny. We are always practicing something. Holding a grudge is a practice. Refusing to forgive is a practice, as is forgiving. How do I practice? Well, let me decide what it is first, and then look at what is being practiced to determine how and what I'm being invited to shift to better practice. Now, if you remember, a few slides ago, we talked about this idea of religion. And I want us to explore what Jack D. Forbes shares with us about religion. He says, religion is, in reality, living. Our religion is not what we profess or what we say or what we proclaim. Our religion is what we do, what we desire, what we seek, what we dream about, what we fantasize, what we think. All of these things, 24 hours a day. One's religion, then, is one's life. Not merely the ideal life, but the life as it is actually being lived. That is our religion. Pause. Religion is living. He goes on to say, religion is not prayer. It's not a church. It's not theistic. It is not atheistic. It has little to do with what white people call religion. Pause. Because right there is where we get religion as a constructed, as a co-opted idea by colonization consciousness that says religion has to be this particular thing where someone is at the top and then all of the followers are below. the popes, the bishops, the cardinals, the gurus, the preacher, the minister. They're at the top. They are in charge. And then the followers, the congregants, the lowly sheep, the lambs, they must follow the shepherd because they will never be the shepherd. They follow. That idea, the colonized consciousness, is what has metastasized and created the misconcept, the corrupt concept of religion. So this is our opportunity to reclaim it for what it truly is. Religion is our every act. If we tromp on a bug, that is our religion. If we experiment on living animals, that is our religion. If we cheat at cards, that is our religion. If we dream of being famous, that is our religion. If we gossip maliciously, that is our religion. If we are rude and aggressive, that is our religion. All that we do and all that we are is our religion. Breathe. Just as easily he says all of these things, we can say, and those who take care of the animals, that is their religion. Those who nurture and support, those who listen compassionately, that is their religion. Those who hug and show affection, that is their religion. Those who communicate compassionately and nonviolently, that is their religion. Those who hold space for a friend, that is their religion. Holding a door for someone, helping someone with their groceries, reaching at the top shelf to get something for someone, that too is our religion. Breathe. Breathe. As we enter into the space of our affirmation and our declaration for this week, first I'll say it, and if you feel like it's in alignment for you, say it with me on the second go round. Spirit itself is the highest ideas of life expressing. And I take time to receive and to embody these ideas together. Spirit itself is the highest ideas of life expressing. And I take time to receive and to embody these ideas. And so it is. This week's study questions, whether you attend the Thursday night study group or not. Number one, what is a stone in your life that is calling for healing or resolution? Now, the stone could be as tiny as a pebble or as large as Stonehenge. Size matters not, as Yoda would say. Simply identify, what is the stone? Stone in the road, stone in a wall. What is the stone? What is the circumstance that is calling for healing or calling for some form of resolution? Number two, when these stones do show up in your life, and they do, how do you react and how do you respond? And what informs your choice to react or respond? What's the difference between reacting and responding? And how aware are you of either or, both and, when the stones show up? Number three, describe your life in terms of what was, what is, and what next. And then what next? And what next? Number four, those two slides regarding religion, contemplate them, journal, and discuss. What are these two slides saying to you? And also, what is the implication of this definition, this new awareness of religion as it applies to religious science? And lastly, what does it mean to practice science of mind and spirit, to live it. And what, if anything, distinguishes, for example, a science of mind meditation from some other form of meditation, a Buddhist meditation? Are they the exact same or are they different? Now, one could say, distinguish between a Granny Smith apple and a mandarin orange. It's easy to distinguish between the two, right? Different shape, different size, different texture, different fruit. But what if I say a Granny Smith apple and a Red Delicious apple? What distinguishes them? Because it's not just the name, there are other qualities that distinguish them. Do we know what distinguishes science of mind and spirit from other theological, spiritual, or religious paths? Because if we don't, then do we really know what science of mind and spirit is? Do we know what religious science is? Because if we don't, then how do we practice it? How do we live it? How does it become a way of life? Breathe as we enter into the space of prayer. Simply breathing into this goodness, this gratitude, this place of knowing that no matter what the stones in life may be, we have the capacity to shift, to transform them so that a stone in the road becomes a stepping stone. That a stone that created a wall can be deconstructed and turned into a sculpture. One keeps people at bay, the other invites them in. We get to choose how we respond and how we react through our mental equivalent, through how we show up, how we live our lives, the religion of our lives, the manner in which we show up, our full mental equivalent, our thoughts, our words, our emotions and feelings, and our actions. We are not bound by precedent. We are set free by principle. And so we align, we practice, we embody all that that means: the perfect life, the great ideal, equity, justice, freedom, and liberty, love. And knowing that the law always says yes, that means it's already here, it's already now. It already exists in that space of consciousness that is the one mind. There is only one mind, and that mind is God. And that mind is your mind right now. It is my mind right now. And so from this awareness, the formless, the mystery, the all that is, the infinite potential, we extract, we birth, we form, we create, we co-create a new form, a new experience, a new effect, so that where there is darkness, there is light. That we are able to mold and form both light and darkness, light and shadow, so that we create art. That there is silence and there is sound, and we create spoken word, we create music. In that space of the formless becoming the form, we enter into the infinite awareness that says, you are God, now act like it. You are the all that is incarnating itself, now act like it. Think like it. Speak like it. Feel as it feels, and show up in motion, in action, doing what it must do. And we breathe. And the law says yes. Breathe. That means it's so. That means it's now. Breathe. And so it is. Much love, much appreciation. Namaste. See you very soon. Have a great rest of your day.